Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Papi and Chulo show.
Good evening. This is the Papi and Chulo show. I am Papi, and here we are with Chulo, talking about an interesting topic that definitely affects us all. I think you're a man who has once been in love or is in love, correct, Chulo?
I have had love in the past that did not last, and as of today, I have the one true woman that has my heart.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
yes, I am in love.
The topic, my friends, is love, sex, and heartbreaks. We've definitely experienced at least two of those. At least two of those: love, sex, and well, for some of us, a married man now, he's open to all opportunities there. So, my friend, I'm going to start off with a little game, a little question rather. Chick flicks. Okay, are you a man who watches rom coms?
Well, I have a wife now, so yes, I do watch rom coms and chick flicks.
And out of love,
Out
you
of out of love only, only out of love. Not that I enjoy them or anything, but it's out of
see. That's
love.
funny because when
So
my brothers and I immigrated to this country, unfortunately, both our parents were working, or my mom was studying, and we had the TV raising us essentially, giving us that cultural digestion of what they have to offer. So, but I admit I am a fan of chick flicks. I wouldn't choose it now, in whichever app. I may see something. I wouldn't choose it, but once it starts and I'm already there, I'm stuck. I'm stuck.
okay,
My go-tos for the past, my friend, my number one, I would say, is Titanic. Titanic.
it's a great
It
movie, I will
just
say.
it just gets me going. And I would say that I've done it plenty of times where, whether it's a guy or a gal, you just get behind them. Obviously they have to be your friend, and then you just start singing the song as you hold their waist. What about you? What chick flick would you willingly watch
Okay,
again?
so this is the thing. There's a couple that I really like. Uh, I will say one of them that I really like is the Time Traveler's Wife,
Haven't heard of that
the
one.
Time
Okay.
Traveler. Yeah, Time Traveler's Wife. It's a movie that came out. I think it was in 2000 and
Mm-hmm.
oh gosh, 2009. But so but me, it's yes, it's the well, it's not a rom com. It's a comedy. It's a comedy movie. Not a comedy movie, a romantic movie. But it has to do with time travel. So of course, this is the sci-fi geek in me kind of coming out. And then the other one is a movie called Brooklyn. I don't know if you
Now,
ever
these
watched
are
that
these
one.
like '90s movies, '80s?
No, these are movies that have probably come out in
Okay.
the last 10, 15
Well, I
years,
think we
maybe.
just lost all our
Yeah.
female audience. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a good movie. The Brooklyn is it's a great story of a an Italian Irish immigrant an Italian immigrant, a dude, and then an Irish woman who comes over from Ireland. She immigrates over, and it's her finding her footing in the U.S. in New York, and she goes to a Irish Catholic church, and then the guy doesn't like going to his Italian church. He starts going to the Irish church, and they start looking at him like, why are you here? And then and they end up falling in love, and it's funny though because they say, well, why don't you just go to the Italian church down the
Wow,
street?
a little bit of a
He's like,
Romeo
and he's
Juliet
like,
type vibe.
yeah,
Montague
exactly. And his
Capulet.
line is he's like, I like Irish girls. What can I say? So those are probably my two favorite chick
Nice,
flick
nice. And
movies.
I used the word improperly then. Rom com is romantic comedies. You're right. So not all chick flicks are rom
Yeah.
coms. The more serious one that I definitely loved growing up is the movie Ghosts. Man, incredible
I
movie.
don't think I've
It's
watched
the
that one.
one famously where the man is doing the mudding with his wife, I believe, at that point.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, amazing.
I've never watched the movie, but I keep hearing it, and my wife keeps telling me
What's
about it.
funny is that I
It's
just
such a
met
great movie.
a pottery guy who just moved into this town, and he's part of this club, a network of people. People in the trades and the crafts, the arts, they will find each other, and so there's a network of them. And he was telling me with all the cool things that are developing, so much so that he's opening a new pottery store downtown, a workshop as well, where people will be able to come
Wow.
in, even have romantic dates and all that. So that's pretty cool.
So you're gonna be able to recreate Titanic, and now the scene from Ghost
he,
is what you're
he
telling me.
said, well, no, not Titanic, Ghost. He said that it's such an inside joke within the pottery world that in
Mhm.
some workshops you there may be a sign that says no ghosting, you know. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
That's great.
My friend, before we even get into these like serious in-depth topics and tell our personal lives as well, we need to identify what are we talking about. We're talking about,
Mm.
let's say first, love. What is love? What is love? And I think you might
Yeah.
explain it better. I wrote it, but it's filial eros agape is what the Greek have
Yeah.
expressed it in. Can you elaborate?
Yeah. 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 So, unfortunately, in English, we only have one word for love. So, it's the same exact word to say "I love coffee"
I love
and "I
lamp.
love my mom" and "I love" what
I
was
love
that?
lamp from
And
Anchorman.
it, there you go. Unfortunately, the word just it can be expressed in different ways and it can mean different levels of depth in the English language. But the ancient Greeks actually had great words for this because it was distinct words. It was three, like you had mentioned, three distinct words: philios or filial, eros, and agape. And filial is family kind of love. So I love my mom, I love my brother, I love my sister, I love uh, you know I love my friends. It's like that filial love, platonic, and yeah, it's kind of like yeah, it's familial. Eros is the one everybody thinks about when they think of love. It's the romantic love, the love between two lovers, man and woman, who fall in love. And then the last one is a type of divine love, like it's called like agape. And agape is something that in the theological world, whenever you hear that God is love, the word love there is agape. It's this divine love that something surpasses our human understanding of what love actually is.
It,
It's so
yeah, it
deep.
rather
Yeah,
limits us, right? Not having more words to express these more
yeah,
specific versions.
yeah. Well, in Spanish, there is a distinction between querer and amo,
Hmm.
right? There's the te quiero, which is I love you, but there's also te amo, which is whenever you say te amo, it's at least for the Mexican side of me, the connotation is an eros
Yeah,
kind of
more
love,
so inclined to the
like a
Eros. Yeah,
romantic, right? Yes, I guess you can kind of say it's a family, but it would be I don't know, it's not as
yeah,
common. So te quiero would be more of a common thing,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
yeah,
So for sure, and even in I would say, love is such a universally understood thing that whether you're religious, spiritual, atheistic, there's certain parts of it that are just recognizable. And
mm,
one verse, definitely recognizable internationally, I would say is the following: Love is patient, love is kind, it is not jealous, it is not pompous, not inflated, it is not rude, it does not seek its own interests, it is not quick tempered, it does not brood over injury, it does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Chapter 1 Corinthians. Such a powerful phrase that the whole world knows it. It touches on topic of what love is, which is more than just an emotion, a mental thought, a feeling. It is an action that uh, it's a holistic action. Your whole being, mind,
mm,
body, soul. It is so powerful that when people experience it, your whole cerebral part of your brain that's more logical and reason oriented, there's actually less activity there. We're assuming less blood flow, and there's more activity to the relational, emotional sides. And psychologists have identified this as sometimes when you're love struck, where you're a little bit forgiving. You put your reasoning aside, your logical side. uh, I like to say you're forgiving of the other person, maybe in their setbacks or their weaknesses, and you're able to you overlook certain things, which could be a bad thing or a good thing, depending on the
yeah.
situation.
One thing that comes to mind is that they say that you should never share too much about a relationship to family and friends. And one of the things that I took away from that was you who are in love tend to be forgiving of the person, but as soon as you tell like your family or your friends, they will never let it go.
Wow.
So it's kind of scary because it's like, well, yeah, they did this one thing to me one time, and it was a one time thing, but you tell your friend, or like, you're, maybe you messed up and you got mad at your girl and you raised your voice at her. Well, she goes and she tells her best friend, and then now the friend will forever see you through the filter as the guy who yelled at
¿Qué?
his girl.
No me digas. ¿Dónde está ese
Yeah.
hombre ahorita? ¿Dónde está? Yep. And
Yeah,
it's funny
exactly.
because I could see it in the Peruvian culture, but I see it more associated with the Mexicans, but more so the Chicanos, the American Mexicans, with this because they
Yeah,
have this whole new feminist strength within them, the good stuff, and
yeah,
and I could see that. I could see that. But yes, telling a Latina woman is one thing, but telling the maybe macho man. Whew, whew, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I could totally see that. Whew. But just being love struck. My first inclination is very defensive, where it's like it's not good. But what did we just earlier mention in the movie Brooklyn, or the Romeo and Juliet? It's two
Mhm.
people that if they were too heady, too intellectual, they might have said, this is really isn't to my favor. This is going to cause more drama to between my families. My people might even die because of this, because we hate each other so much. It might be in our best interest for both, regardless of how much I love him, that I should put this aside. But
Yeah,
maybe love struck isn't the word for that scenario where love conquers all, love surpasses
hmm,
all, and that's what they were experiencing. So their cerebral part followed that as well, where they were willing and consented to just put logic, not logic, but other people's desires aside, which may not seem logical, and they
hmm,
were choosing each other, which is
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. Love transcends borders, and that doesn't matter if it's rivalries between families or rivalries between races back in the day where there was different, different religion or different. I think ethnic backgrounds would be the thing. The Irish versus the Italians, even though they're the same exact religion, have been treated just as bad from other people
Yeah,
that
right.
othered them.
It's like people forget
Yeah,
that it
it
isn't
doesn't
just like
matter.
a black man couldn't marry a white girl. It was also
Yeah,
like people within the same religions. Just because you lived in a
yeah,
different block, it isn't just
yeah,
socioeconomic. It's just because you're
yeah.
part of a different
You
tribe.
exactly. You come from different regions. I have this colleague that I work with, and he's Middle Eastern, and it's funny though because here in the San Diego area, there's a large group of people from the Middle East, and he says, it's so funny that the older generations will say, they're coming together, and the younger kids are starting to marry amongst the same culture, and they're like, oh, but this person is from, I think they're Iraqis. Like, oh, this person's from this tribe. Oh, no, 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 they're horrible. They're horrible. Don't ever marry anybody from that area. You have to marry somebody from Baghdad. It's like, you're from the same country. Are you just you're just fighting over, one town or one village versus the city? And it just, for some reason, we just tend to fight, even if it's the same country. There's always tends to be a division there, no matter what. But hey, love perseveres
Yeah,
through
let me
all of
ask
it.
you this, my friend. I just realized that you kind of stepped out of your circle of ethnicity, and and
Oh
and
my
and
goodness, let me tell
and
you.
uh and I did learn a couple more things from your mother-in-law. I don't know if you're willing to share today, of what you didn't necessarily experience, but things that happened in the background. Would you be willing to share?
I'll get a little into it. There were some comments made because I am of a slightly darker color from a slightly more Latinized
Hmm.
area. So my for those who don't know, my wife is of Irish descent. It's another Brooklyn moment, right? Irish descent, but instead of being Italian, I'm Mexican. So there was a little bit of a friction among certain family members. It wasn't like anger or frustration. It was more
I would say it's
poking fun
ignorance,
at her.
man.
Yeah, but it's poking fun at, and it's kind of like, oh, somebody's different, somebody different. But then again, I will say the same thing about when I started dating. I have a track record of dating non-Mexican girls. So,
So your family was used to it.
so well, no, it's funny. It's like I even remember my dad sitting down with me. He's like, "Look, I get it. There's something attractive about American women." I was like, but they'll never understand the Mexican culture,
Mm,
and it's
interesting.
it's like, it's true, and it really is. Especially when I went to Ohio, it really was a big culture shock, and trying to connect with people. It just, to a lot of people, was very foreign, and I didn't realize how comfortable I was sitting around my culture uh, until I went there, because until I was basically disconnected with my Mexican culture, and then now trying to date, it just, I didn't see an issue with it until people started pointing it out to me. Like my dad would mention these things, but it's like, but dad, we live here in America. It doesn't matter. We're all, if I find myself a girl, for me, the important thing, the main criteria was be Catholic,
Hmm.
because I'm a practicing Catholic. Be Catholic. That's all I cared about, because that's the, the main groundwork that I want to build on. It didn't matter what color skin, what background you were, as long as I found you attractive and you were Catholic. Why not? But yeah, but no matter where you go, there's going to be friction. Somebody has something to say
For
about
somebody who
anything.
may not know you too much, I would say I think what you're trying to say is you know how to love, just love me. Yes,
Yeah.
like be Catholic. I think at this point you would have required that, right, for your spouse. Obviously, she is Catholic.
At what? Yeah. At which point are you
Before
talking about?
before you even dated Chula, did you?
Yeah. That's one thing that I debated on, because I mean, we all had our reversion or conversion at some point in life, right? So we weren't always innocent young bucks, as we try to
Mhm.
be
Oh,
strong,
hypocrites?
powerful
What?
Catholic men
Who?
today.
What? Me? Who? You?
Not hypocrites, but coming to be enlightened in the faith
Sure.
is what I would say, is finally saying, okay, fine, I'm gonna live my faith out. But uh, it just, I'm losing my track of thought here. But
Whether it was a requirement for
it's
you for her to be Catholic.
yeah. So for me, was there has to be some common ground between the two of us. I've
There
dated
we go. Maybe that's what I
women
was looking
who,
for.
yeah, I've dated women who were, some were not some were Catholic by name only, and didn't really care too much about it. It was just a check box, check the box and mark it, and we're good to go. But for me, it's like, no, I actually want to, this is something, even when I wasn't that practicing, it was like, this is actually kind of important to me, and this is going to be some common ground. I will say this: I, at one point, I dated an Indian girl.
Hmm.
She was Sikh, uh, so not even close to any Christian religion, and on multiple fronts, it was disastrous, because we didn't have much in common. And I remember, even one, it was a Sunday, we went to church, my church. Well, we went to her church first, or the Sikh
Hmm.
temple, and it was just strange. It was something that I'd never experienced before, and I don't know what I'm surrounded. Nobody's speaking English, and
Hmm.
they have the guru up front, and then later that evening we went to Catholic mass, and for her, she had been to a Catholic mass, but it was a strange thing for her
Hmm.
too. And my thing is, whenever you walk into the church, there has to be some sort of modesty, right? Uh, but so she was not. She was more worldly, so she dressed,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
not as modest. She was definitely wearing more revealing clothing. And first, I remember walking into the church, and I was like, "This is. I don't feel comfortable with
Hmm.
this." And clearly, we're not on the same ground here.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't know what expectations you have until you go through it. Go through it.
Yeah.
For myself, I used to think, as long as she used to have, she would have a big heart and loved me. And then as I dated a Buddhist girl from Japan. That was awesome, but yeah, she just wasn't into even going to church. It just felt that she wasn't interested anymore. She gave it. She did it out of respect, but it was. I felt like I was.
Let me ask you. Did she introduce some of, like, the I guess, Buddhist ideology into the relationship, or standards?
From my impression, Buddhism is more a lifestyle, a beautiful lifestyle, but it really wasn't something that she was trying to convince me of.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So. So and then another long-term relationship where she is Catholic by birth but not practicing, and because of that experience I am more inclined to that department, to that area. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
And just to finish
fair
off
enough.
what I know about your circumstance with your spouse's family in the background, the person who told us this story, I believe you were there too, nipped that in the butt. And then after that, there were no more problema. Chulo,
Yeah.
just as Irish as everybody else.
Well, the it when I met the people that had made certain comments, it's almost as though it had never occurred, which is a great thing. Which is like it's water under the bridge. Who cares? Whatever was said or whatever was done doesn't matter, as long as they're respectful and respect the relationship that I have with Chula now. It's we're good to go. No
Amen,
problems.
amen. Another thing about talking of this concept called love, we are asking what it is, but we also have to identify what it is not. And what it is not, this is just a proposal. We're willing to hear other ideas for it. By all means, comment. We want to learn. We want to become better lovers, as a friend, as a spouse to be. So, love does not come in separate parts. Love does not come in separate parts. It is willful and internal intent to do good to the other. A willful internal intent to do good to the other, and it comes also as a physical expression of doing that good. So essentially, what we said before, it's not just emotions, it's action. I see it as something that I feel in my heart, in my soul. I have this emotional bond with this person, and I want to do good. But it doesn't just mean doing good, which is gifting her or paying for. It has to be actual good, actual. Um,
Yeah, like the theologian Thomas Aquinas says, love is desiring the greatest good for the other just for being another, and it has to be true goods, not just perceived goods. I guess you can call it. If that's the direction you're
True
going.
that. Another thing I want to mention is it is not something that is just meant for the present when you're thinking about that person. When you want to truly love them in the truer sense of the word, you want to also will the good for their future as well. So you will make decisions, you will perform actions that don't just benefit her now, him or her now, but also themselves, their whole self in the future.
Yeah,
Which is why I would say marriage is very enamoring to somebody, because uh, most people would see it as the fullest expression of love, because you're publicly proclaiming yourself to the world and to yourself that you will forever love that person. It is
yeah,
it is something beautiful. It is a commitment that unfortunately is kind of being lost the meaning today, but it's still good to see when authentic marriages exist. Examples, like I see happy marriages with 4, 5, 10 kids. Doesn't mean that they didn't go through their hardships. They're the first to admit they went through hardships. They went through selfish periods, um, either both or individually. Even marriages that separated and they came back together. So those are things that we're definitely going to talk about.
yeah. I do want to say one thing. Your expression of what love is and what love isn't, I really appreciate, because there was no talk of what this person can do for me. And I think that's one key thing that we have to remember is love is not thinking, well, what are you doing for me to make me feel good and what gratifying me? It's all about what can I do for you, and making sure that everything that you need is taken care of, and loving you in the ways that you want to be loved. And that's such a flip of what the world tells you. But I think it's such a flip of the world tells you is because the world tells us that it's like, well, you have to watch out for yourself because people are always out to get you. So there's famous podcasts out there such as the whatever podcast, dating podcasts, things like that, where it's like, well, that they can't trust marriage. They're very anti-marriage because they say, well, the woman's going to take everything. But if you look at it in the worldview of I am doing everything to love you and making sure you're taken care of, and it's done both ways, the man to the woman and the woman to the man, then there's no fault there. There's no way that it can falter.
I understand though the where they're coming from, the whatever podcast, because you and I
Mm-hmm.
have experience. I know we've shared stories where we've been the ones putting our best foot forward, and then we were burned or used or taken advantage of. Um,
Yep.
so these men, well, from the whatever the host of whatever podcast, just from what I've heard, there are men that have been hurt, and they tell themselves, "I will never be hurt again." Almost like
Yeah.
from the movie Hitch. I remember the moment where he was totally in love. Will Smith, the actor, who I once respected, not anymore. Sorry. And in the character, the youthful college love, when he's heartbroken, he tells himself, I will never experience this again. I am willfully choosing this, and therefore I will always be um, a romancer, but I will no longer involve my heart in it. Would you
Mm.
agree from what you remember?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But that's where I think you're absolutely right. It's where it stems from. It stems from being hurt because the person that they were dating or seeing also had a faulty view of it, and it really is the cyclical thing of like a person hurts another person, therefore now that person is just completely jaded by the situation and will never give it a chance to its true potential of what love could be or marriage could be, because they see it as this is the potential of how people can hurt me. I'm going to avoid that at all cost. So therefore, X or marriage is a sham.
And you know what's the worst part about that is when it keeps on
What's that?
proving itself again and again and again with many people, men and women, who are willing to come out and test the waters again, put themselves out there again, and then just be hurt again, which is
Yep.
unfortunate. Which it's understandable as to why there are men podcasts and male podcasts and female podcasts that literally
Yeah.
talk about I'm doing me. I'm gonna get what I want, which includes everything that the romance life offers, except without me involving my heart.
Yep.
So, which is why I agree with the saying it isn't about 50-50. It's about
Mm-hmm.
100%, 100%. The hope is that you find that person who's willing to have that compatible approach to love, to marriage.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Very, very good points right there. Very good points, my friend.
I like it.
We have a question here, which is, have you ever been in love? I'm assuming that's not meant for you because we obviously know that
Mm-hmm.
you're happily married and in love and you're a lucky man. For myself,
What about you? Yeah.
my friend, I unfortunately have never been in love. In love, I've loved women, uh, but I have never been in love. The closest that I've ever been to it was my first girlfriend in college. She was a great woman. Unfortunately, she dealt with um, some issues of anorexia nervosa, which is something that I didn't had no idea what it was when I was 18 years old. But I can honestly tell you that she was the closest thing that I would consider being in love with, and maybe the idea of marriage played passed through my mind. Uh,
What's the difference? What's the difference between you loving these women and you being in love with
you
these
care
women?
for
What's
them, you date them, you're with them, you will the good for them, but I wasn't that click moment that needs to happen for you to want to marry her, or I mean that definitely helps for that click moment to when you decide to marry her. But I would say in love is more so when it's like it's an uncontrollable, like unexplained emotion and longing for that person. You want to be with her. Um, some people could call that no, it wouldn't be blind love. But the point is, it's just more. You're more committed. You're more committed.
I don't know. I would say for me. It wasn't. I have a hard time finding the distinction that because for me it was a constant decision to, and it still is a constant decision to love my wife, because there's going to be, there have been, and will continue to be moments where it's like, I care about you, I love you, but right now it's not clicking that I really just want to, fully give my all. It has to be a constant decision to do that.
So sure,
So
sure.
I
Perhaps that's what you're dealing with now, because that's what marriage is. This is what you're saying to me now. Is what I've tended to hear married people say. It has to be a daily, willful action to love the other in action. It doesn't mean you'll always like the person, but you've committed to loving that person, and you want to. In the recesses of your heart, you want to uh, continuously do that because that's a person you're secretly bonded to. But perhaps I don't know how to best explain it. It's always made sense in my mind that I care. I love a person. I care for them. I do all the actions that are good for them, but I wasn't in love with them where I was ready to take it more serious. And by serious, it's like we're talking engagement and stuff. Um, like I said, the closest.
Did you ever truly open yourself up to them?
Some may say that I don't, that I haven't. My best friend may say that. My family may say that, but I'm speaking honestly that I just have not been in that scenario where I've been head over heels over somebody, and and we're waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. So, and I'm eagerly
Hmm.
awaiting it. Uh, I'm stealing these words from a good friend of mine from back in the day. I am not a hopeless romantic. I am a hopeful romantic. A hopeful romantic, because I am, and it's only logical to be, because if I'm inclined to be with somebody in marriage, it wouldn't make sense for me to be boohoo about it, to cry about it. Um,
Hmm.
I have this disposition of hope, and if God's a logical person, it'll be provided in due time. So, or not God's a
Okay.
logical person. If God provides what He promises, then that's yeah.
Hmm.
So it would be illogical for me to get all worked up about it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah, my friend. Uh, have you ever been jaded in love, Chulo? Have you ever been jaded in love? Now, of course, this is
So
way before even ever meeting Chula. Do tell me, my friend.
So the funny thing that you bring this question up, I was scrolling through my old pictures and I found our very first picture together on the day that I first met you. The day that I met Papi was a day that I was reeling in pain because I was completely brokenhearted by a woman who was treating me like her boyfriend at the time. That's in all honesty. And she ended up dropping me. What's the
Like
term?
a sack of
Dropping me at the
potatoes, like a hot potato.
it's,
Yeah,
or
dropping you like a hot potato,
on a dropping me on a dime
dropping you on a dime. Yeah.
because she found one of my friends attractive and they started dating.
No me
Oh,
digas.
also, it was painful because it really did feel like not just a you know, oh, this girl broke my heart and it's gone. It really did feel like like you cheated on me, even though we weren't dating, even though we were never officially anything, and I was dumb enough to go along with it. I was still We were still treating each other like boyfriend and girlfriend. She'd fall asleep in my arms. I'd like be hugging her, and I'd try to spoil her as best as I can as a college student, right? And oh yeah, you want to know the kicker of all this too? She was dating someone while she was doing this with me, and she ended up breaking up with that guy in order to date my friend, well, my so-called friend at the time. So it was just a hot mess all around, and but it was probably one of the most devastating things that I needed to experience in order to allow me to grow as a person. But man, I cannot tell you how many tears I shed, how devastating it is. Even till today, when I sit and I think about it, I still think about just, I felt like an injustice that was done. And it's not just an injustice done to me, but it was an injustice done to the dude that she was dating at the time. And then, you know, all of a sudden to pick up this dude who had this European accent, and Mr. Suave over here, and they ended up getting married and having kids. So uh, yeah, it was devastating for me, and yeah, I stopped eating for like a week straight, and I wasn't drinking any fluids. The only reason I actually started drinking fluids again, I was reminded because it started hurting when I was urinating. That's how bad I was devastated, dude. It really is horrible, and yeah, I just the thought
Dude,
of it,
it's
man.
okay, man. It's okay. You're not the only one. It happens to us. I mean,
But you getting played, dude. That's the hard part. It's like I was stupid enough to sit around in the situation and allow myself to be there, and I got played, and that's what hurts more than anything.
you know, somebody could be hearing this and be like, "Well, what were the signs? What was happening? Didn't Were you oblivious? If you didn't seal the deal, then what are you expecting?" Um, but the point is, you thought there was going to be something more real, something more authentic there, and it didn't play out that way, and and it hurt you, and it hurt you for a while, and it hurt you for a while.
And meanwhile, you're over here having fun. When you meet me, you're like, "What's this simp doing over here, falling over a girl? Let's just go out and have some fun."
For context, yeah, that's so. If you're talking about that picture when we first met, then yeah, that was at the Hoffer House, a German bar where you could dance on the chairs, and there's dancing and merriment all around. An awesome place to be here in Pittsburgh. But I noticed that this Latino brethren across from me, we were like a group of six Latinos. What a coincidence! It was just per chance
Yeah,
that it happened that way in a very Caucasian, European descended place, and we were having a blast. And I just
it's a little shadowy corner in the German
yeah,
restaurant, right?
and I just saw you down. It didn't bother me initially, but it bothered me later because I was like, all right, dude, like shake it off, like get over yourself. But I mean that was just me not understanding you where you were then. It was fresh.
Yeah.
It was fresh.
Yeah, you know what? It actually ruined that first semester so much that I was thinking about not returning to school because of it, because of how bad it was. But fortunately, I did the Austria program, the
Mm,
going to Europe first semester, so I was able to do that and just get a breath of fresh air for a semester. And I came back and I dealt, I probably didn't handle it the best coming back because I still saw around campus. We were all around the same friend groups, and I think the best decision I made was just to ignore her.
yeah.
She tried to talk to me a couple of times, and I just ignored her. I just At that point I couldn't handle talking to her, and yeah, I was able to
Hmm.
heal. And you had a big part in that, especially later on in the Muay Thai crew, which is really cool. And um, I think you have to find another love or passion in order to help you move out of that heartbreak. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
other kinds of love defeat
and we'll
that kind
touch
of
that.
love.
We'll touch
Or
that in the heartbreak section. Oh, good point. For myself, I can't say that I've been jaded. I've had like small emotions of being jaded. I think I've seen my father be jaded when prior to meeting my current stepmother. My mother passed away years ago when I was 13, and he did date in between that. In his long term relationship, when they were going through hardships, he felt jaded, and I saw it. I saw it in his eyes. I saw it in his body language and the way he was talking. And so I've experienced it. I've witnessed it rather. And but I was young, so I was maybe in my teens when I saw that. But now, as I reflect on it and those memories, I know how it looks, and yeah, it's definitely sad to see. But like all do, like time heals a lot of wounds, and that definitely helped my father. So happily married now with my stepmother.
good,
Yes, my friend.
good,
Let's
good.
talk specifically about sex. Sex, 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 sex. Can't have enough of it, right?
It's yeah. Well, the algorithm is gonna tell me don't say that word, or I'm gonna have to bleep you out every time you say it. I know.
My friend, what does the world, the media, the modern cultural trends say about sex? If I had to just ask you like that question, how you respond?
get as much get as much of it as you can. Make sure you get your fill, and once you got your fill, then you can go and settle down. But go out and have fun and experience as much of it
All
as
right,
you
so I'm just
can.
playing off you, okay? All right,
Okay.
Chulo, that's healthy. We're human, uh, prim, sexual beings. Sexuality is healthy, good for you, as long as there's consent and perhaps an awareness if it's not going to be anything more serious than just engaging in sexual relations, then this is good. This is
I would say no. I would challenge the premise of it being good for multiple reasons, but I think well, I guess the one point that I'll make is it if you're looking just to have fun now and settle down in the future, it's going to diminish your ability to pair bond with your spouse in the future. And and it's proven. And then the other thing is, I mean, you can look at divorce. I mean, I'm not saying it's the factor, but it's definitely a factor in that. Yeah,
so. Yeah,
let's hear
I'll
your
add to
rebuttal.
what you just said. That what did you say about peer bonding? Yeah, peer bonding.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard
yeah,
that word before. I think even in a psych book or something like that. But one research study that I heard of is where they just looked at quantitative data of people who were married and then divorced, and they wanted to see the divorce rate according to how many sexual partners they had in their life. So as far as I
Hmm.
know, those were the only two uh, pieces of information they asked. Are you divorced? And how many sexual partners did you have? And what they found for a large group, so it isn't just a small 100 people, uh, more than two sexual partners, your divorce rate increased to 20%. More than four sexual partners, your divorce rate increased to 60%. More than four in your
Wow,
life. More than six sexual partners, your divorce rate increased to 80%. When it
wow,
happened, how it happened, it doesn't really matter. They weren't asking that. They were just asking those two questions.
wow.
So what is it though? What is it? What is it? You tell me no, but that sounds like an authoritarian figure just telling me no. You can't live your best life, Chulo. That's what you're telling me. But you haven't made sense to me yet. Like, why is it that you think that a very sexually active lifestyle could be detrimental to a person's life?
Didn't everything that you just say though affirm what I just said?
Well, okay, which is where which is where I would say because there's people that will still
Yeah,
support.
but I would say people will support it because it's the natural human response to, well, you're just wanting to hold me back from having fun. But it's not that. It's like you have to look at your future too. Just like when you look at money, you have to look at it as responsible investments, stuff like that. If you're the kind of person that you know, if as soon as you have money in your pocket, you let it burn, then you're not going to get anywhere in the future. I would say it's the same thing with sex and relationships. It's like uh, that your ability to pair bond you and you diminishing that by having more and more sex. It's like it's not a healthy thing for you. Um, you know, you fine, go out and try to prove me wrong, but you know, you're the one that has to live with yourself for the next, you know, 40, 50, 60 years, trying to fill this gap in your heart because you haven't been able to pair bond properly with your spouse.
So this is where I
It's
think our approach is a little bit different. Um, I, you come at it more ideologically and just set in it because that's what's worked and what you've seen worked. The way I would
yeah, historically,
is what you would
and
say.
base,
Is what you would say.
yeah,
I
that's my
I
approach.
would
Yeah,
say
agreed.
my approach is it depends on what you want. If you're aiming for a marriage or a family, a partner with children, what is it that the research tells us? The research tells us that divorce rates are high for people who are not good in communication and not good in conflict resolution, not good with finances. Those list the top 10. You know what isn't included in that list is
Hmm.
the sex is bad. which is usually, I don't know why. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, I'm going through tough times in my marriage. Maybe if I improve my sex life with her or him,
Yeah.
it'll get better." Yeah. So I used to think that myself, but no. Some of the top reasons: poor communication, lack of conflict resolution, meaning that you don't know how to argue well, and you just like blow up or whatever, and then financial stressors, which is, it makes sense. It totally
So
makes sense.
those are the points that you would make. I think we're saying similar things. I'm just honing in on one thing, one specific argument. While you're looking at it, the broad perspective of multiple points on why it would be detrimental to your relationship that could potentially fail in the
So
future.
so I would say, if what you're aiming for is this, then do the things that will get you there to have the most functional, happiest marriage ever. We already said that having more than many multiple partners, sexual partners, is no bueno for your happy, functional marriage life. Okay, so we would, I would say, if you really want this, then you need to be more of a person who delays in sexual gratification with your partner, with the person you're dating. And then two, if you're aiming for this functional, happy, sexually happy as well marriage, then prepare yourself as a person now, with the disciplines, with the habits, with the lifestyle, with the community, so that you may be able to put your best foot forward in the future. That's
Yeah.
what I would say. That's what I would say. Do you see the difference though? In
I think what I eventually go to, it's like, well, you can do what you want eventually, but if you want a successful marriage, this is one of the things you shouldn't do. Where I think you're looking at a more, I guess the word holistically, you're looking at like all of the components. But I feel like we're seeing similar things, just with a slightly different
Sure,
angle.
sure. And then
Yeah.
the easy example is, like, if you're preparing to be a marathon runner, an Olympic weightlifter, you you have to train differently. You have to train differently. You have to eat differently. Um, the struggles will be different, and it isn't something that happens today. It's something that happens 5 years, 10 years down the road, but you reap the rewards later on. You see the
Yeah.
results later on. So it's the same thing with the married life. If we're talking about the married life, that's something that usually happens after the age of 25, after the age of 30. It's getting a little bit later for people these days in their age, but you're hoping for it to last to the age of 50, 60, 70, till death do us part. Then you would think that that is something that you dedicate yourself to, that
Yeah.
you put your training, you orient yourself to putting yourself holistically in the best foot forward.
Yeah. And these conversations or arguments would be viewed differently depending on what the person is saying, right? So if a person is saying, well, yeah, I guess eventually I want to do that, but I just want to have fun right now, I think those things would be really, like, very fruitful for a person to listen to. But if a person is saying, well, I never plan on getting married, I'm just going to keep having fun and doing what I want, then we would have to take one step further back and saying, well, is this what life is? Is it just going out and hooking up and sleeping around and doing whatever we want, or is there something more to life? So I guess it would just depend on which level the person is on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that would require a different approach.
Yeah.
Moving on to heartbreaks, my friend. Heartbreaks. We already know you experienced a heartbreak. I
Tell me
again
about
can
your
can
heartbreaks.
sadly say I have never had my heart broken.
Sadly, ooh.
Yes,
I guess, yeah.
yes.
Okay, fair enough. I know where you're
I,
going
I
with
don't
this,
I
but
don't know
it
where I
ranks
heard it. I
down.
think it was in a movie, or maybe somewhere I read it, where you value love more when your heart's been broken, and that totally makes sense to me. Uh, since I have never been the person who has been rejected, yeah, I've never had my heart broken.
You you are the heartbreaker, not the
Uh,
heartbroken one, not the heartbreaky.
correct the mundo there.
Oh, all right. Oof. No, yeah. I see what you mean. It's eventually something good comes from these things if you take what needs to be taken from it. But yeah, man, it's not fun when you're going through it. That's for sure.
What would be the advice you would give a fellow man, a fellow woman, just going through this tough time, Chulo? You've been there.
I would introduce him.
Tell us.
I would introduce him to heavy weights and tell him to start lifting. They say a heartbreak is the introduction to or is the birth of a bodybuilder. Is what they say, right? Uh, because for somebody who has experienced heartbreak, in all honesty, I think for me, I would empathize with them first. It's like, I know what you're going through feels like one of the worst things in the world. But there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. But right now, you have to work on things that are going to make you a better person. And I think for anybody trying to enter into love and eventually gets heartbroken, it it would be the same remedy in general, which is always work on yourself. Continue to work on yourself. What is the kind of person that you want to be? And if a person breaks your heart, it's probably for the best because they are not the kind of person that's going to hold you to the same ideals you're going to hold themselves to. And these are just, advice I would give, like that. Hopefully, give them a little bit of hope. But I don't know, man. I empathize with them because it's just, it really is devastating. Going through that, it really is devastating for a person. Yeah, I don't know. And then take them to the gym, one or the other.
So one thing I would recommend. So even though I haven't had my heart broken, I've definitely experienced hurt. It's you have to relinquish the desire. You have to relinquish control and relinquish your desire for control, because you
Hmm.
play back everything and how it happened and how it should have happened, and then you could start defending yourself, which is very normal as a human. So you start justifying your actions and why you were right. You just have to let go of all that. You have to be very proactive at forgiving that other person for the wrongs that they did. Forgive yourself for the wrongs that you did. um, you cannot accuse that other person for making you feel the way you did. I mean, if it were like, an abuse, or she cheated on you, then yeah, that's that's on her. But what I'm trying to say is, she didn't control how you acted, and that's probably one thing that I'm learning from my last relationship. Is like, like I'm responsible for my actions and what I did and what I said, and she didn't make me do it. So it's just forgiving the other person, forgiving yourself, moving forward, healthy distractions, healthy coping mechanisms. I don't really like the word distractions, but healthy coping mechanisms. Do your best to avoid the unhealthy one: drinking, partying, moving on to the next person. Unfortunately, there's plenty of people that I know in my lifetime. Is the second they lose somebody, they move on to the next person. That is not healthy. That is only putting a bandage, and the worst I would say is when it gets serious with that next person right away. Some
Yeah.
people don't care. Some people know that they just came out of a prior. The partner knows that they just came out of a serious relationship. It's not for me. I would say, if you're gonna put your best foot forward for your official partner to be, you should allow yourself to heal. But people do things differently.
Yeah. I like that. Relinquish control. It's good.
My friend, I think it's that time where we summarize this show. I think I want to end this show with a little bit of homework for our audience. Things that will hopefully help you in seeing where you need to adjust. So, my friends, I ask of you, what kind of love do you want? What kind of love do you want, and are you aiming for it? What kind of love do you want, and are you actually aiming for it? So, like we said, if you're a person who is living the hookup culture, the hookup life, what are you aiming for? And is it compatible with what you're doing? If you're somebody who is totally afraid of asking somebody out, or unwilling to say yes to a date, but what are you aiming for? You have to put
Yeah.
yourself out there, or you have to be willing to take a risk and say yes, even if it's a date that you might not be interested in with. There is a thing as um, kind of uh, I would say men and women are a little bit unrealistic with their dating expectations these days, and I am definitely in that category. I admit it. I have to be broaden my horizons. So there's that.
Hmm.
Number two, if you had a younger brother or cousin, a younger brother or male cousin, what would your advice be regarding a healthy sex life? So this is good for a religious person, a secular person. The point is, because you're giving advice to that younger brother or male cousin, you are asking them, you are going to tell them what you think is the best version of what you think a sex life is. Are you going to tell them go ahead and hook up whenever you want, just wrap it up? Is that really what you're going to say? Some people do. Okay. But you know I would say most of us would say there's a little bit more required than that. Number three, what is the advice you would give to someone going through heartbreak? What is the advice you would give to someone going through heartbreak? And would you even take that advice yourself? It's easy to
Yeah.
give advice, hard to actually implement to yourself. Here we are
Yeah.
doing a show where we're talking about love, sex, and heartbreaks, but we have proven to our audiences that we are not the best at it, at perhaps not loving, perhaps not at um, dealing through heartbreak. Yeah,
Yeah. I would want to add one more.
go for it.
I would say fulfill the ideals that you would want to see in another person. So be the ideals that you would want to look for in another person. So if you want somebody who's disciplined, be disciplined. If you want somebody who's fit, be fit. If you want somebody who's emotionally stable, work on yourself to be emotionally stable. Uh, and I think when you do that, you will attract a person that also holds those ideals.
Amen. Amen. No, yeah. When I did counseling for a bit, that's one thing he mentioned. He's like, become the person you're looking for is looking for.
Yep.
Become that person. He first had me write out everything that I would like in that partner, and then he said, I think he told me to just write, and I think I reached like 80,
Mm.
80 things. He says like,
Wow.
don't stop, just be limitless, just ask whatever you want. And then he looked at me and he says like, now here's another list that I need you to do as well, where what do you think she is looking for, and start. And essentially the list matched, of course,
Yeah.
because if she's working hard to become the person that she is, she would expect and hope for something comparable.
Yep.
So hoping for that man who also put his best effort forward. You know,
Absolutely.
awesome, dude. Thank you for doing the show with me, my
Yeah.
man. Good,
Of
good
course, man.
show. We love you, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Another great topic for the next one will be 20s going on 30s. 20s going on 30s, where we will discuss about the common issues young men and women experience these days, the struggles, the good times, the distractions, the hardships, but also the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel. And we'll also share a little bit about ourselves, the ups and downs that we personally experienced, the bumps along the way. We sure have experienced a lot of those ourselves, but we've always come out strong. We love you. We'll see you next time. This is the Papi and Chulo Show.